What's up YouTube, this is Connor Mason, and I'm going to be using this channel to talk about cars. Now, I've loved cars ever since I was a little kid, so I hope that you guys love cars just as much as I have. So today I'm going to be using my time to talk about some of the latest car news that has come out in the last month. So let's start with the first story. It's Maserati is making a mid-engine sports car. Now, Maserati's always been one for the front-engined, rear-wheel drive, more GT cars, so making a mid-engine car is pretty much a new direction for them. Now, the CEO, Harold Wester, is both CEO of Alfa Romeo and Maserati as well, and they've taken sort of the idea from the Alfa Romeo 4C concept that some of you may have seen in last year's Geneva Motor Show. So basically, it's going to be a small mid-engined car with a V8 and about 400 brake horsepower. It's going to be called the Gran Turismo, but it's not really a Gran Turismo if you've seen the last generation, which will look nothing like it. I'll include a picture right about now. So as you can see, it looks nothing like the previous generation Gran Turismo. And I mean, what is there to say? It's something completely new for Maserati, who really need to update their image as far as new material goes, since they've had the Quattroporte for quite a number of years, and the Gran Turismo is pretty much their only new car. Alright, and the next story is the Jaguar CX-16 concept that was released at last year's Geneva Motor Show. It attracted a lot of press attention, and Jaguar has said that they're going to put it into production under the name the Jaguar F-Type, clearly carrying over from the Jaguar E-Type, and it's going to look pretty much unchanged, but one change is going to be that they are introducing it as a soft top first and then as a hard top later. And the base version is going to come with a V6 with about 300 horsepower, and they say that they're probably going to have a V8 version that'll be something akin to the Jaguar XKR with about 400 brake horsepower, so you could look for more performance in that. And honestly, I think that the CX-16 was actually one of the best looking concepts of all time, but definitely one of the best looking cars at the Geneva Motor Show. Alright, and the next story is the Lamborghini Urus. So Lamborghini is trying to get its foot in the door in the luxury SUV market, and they're using the Urus to do that. The Urus is going to be of course, four-wheel drive, as is a trademark of Lamborghini, SUV that focuses on performance first and luxury second. So it's going to have a 6-liter V12 with 600 horsepower, akin to the Lamborghini Aventador. And honestly, I mean, I'm not so sure about the styling of it, because it looks like someone took a chisel and just hacked away at it for half an hour and then said, there, it's done. So, I mean, the luxury and sports SUV market has been a rapidly growing market for quite a number of years, so Lamborghini is trying to do the smart thing and get their foot in the door then, but the problem is, for me, it's just not something Lamborghini should do. Alright, and the next story is Hertz, the popular rental car company, is now going to be offering supercar rentals. So some of the supercars they have available for rental are the McLaren MP412C, Ferrari 458 Italia, the Gallardo Spider, Lamborghini Gallardo Spider, and the Audi R8 V10. So this is something really great, because Hertz has up to now only offered the Adrenaline collection, which includes stuff like Mustangs and Chargers and Camaros and other things like that. So for Hertz to be offering something like this, it's just really a big thing. I mean, I can imagine people like me getting like one day rentals of a Ferrari for my birthday or something like that. That sounds like a really great deal and something that Hertz really should do. So I'm glad that they're launching this line of supercar rentals. And then let's jump into the next story, which is Dodge is bringing back the Viper. It's going to be under the SRT name, so it'll just be called the SRT Viper. Now, it still has an 8.4-liter V10, which is huge. I think it's the biggest production car engine on the market today. and it's going to have 640 horsepower as opposed to the previous generation 600. It's going to be lighter, and finally the interior looks like they actually did some work on it, rather than just threw some stuff together and called it the interior. I mean, the CEO said that they were trying to make something that was both beautiful and functional, whereas in the past they've always relied on functional. So that's still going to be a monster for the track and something of a drag car for the road. Now let's talk about one of my favorite cars, the Pagani Zonda. Now, if you haven't heard of Pagani, they're a smaller Italian automaker that's been making the Pagani Zonda for the past 14 years. And they've made so many different versions of it. The prices range anywhere from $180,000 to about $1.8 million. And they've recently released a whole new lineup of one-off cars built for specific owners. Like, the new one is the Zonda 760 RS, and that is the road-going version of the track-only Zonda R. Now, Horacio Pagani said that the Cinque was the road-going version of the Zonda R, and that the Tricolore was also a road-going version of the Zonda R, but the 760 is really the road-going version, because whereas the Tricolore and the Cinque had 670 horsepower, the Zonda 760 RS actually has 20 more horsepower than the Zonda R. It has 760 horsepower, so that results in a 225 mile an hour top speed and 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. The paintwork is clear lacquer over carbon fiber, so you can see the carbon fiber construction. And the gearbox is either A manual, a 6-speed manual, or B a 7-speed automated dual clutch transmission. And that is going to be making the car quite a force to deal with on road or track. So that's something to look forward to, and they apparently are making other versions of it, like the 760 GL and the 760 LH. Now, if you've heard of the Zonda, then great, these things will be something that you probably won't know. And if you've never heard of the Zonda, well, here are a few little things about it. These are 20 things that you probably don't know about the Pagani Zonda. Alright, the first thing is the Zonda nearly became a Lamborghini. So Horacio Pagani started work creating what we now know as the Zonda in the early 1990s. It was self-financed by Pagani, but in 1997, Lamborghini was looking for a replacement for the Diablo, so they went to Pagani, who had previously worked for them, and they looked at the Zonda project and liked it so much that they offered to buy it from Pagani for $9 million. So Pagani got his family together, because Pagani Automobili is family-owned, and while it was a lot of money, they decided to turn Lamborghini down and release the car, all because of what Horacio's 6-year-old son said to him. He said, "Dad, you've wanted to build your own car your whole life. Now your chance is here and you're just going to sell it?" So that changed Horacio's mind and created the Zonda as the Pagani we know it today. Alright, number 2. There were only 3 Series 1 C12 Zondas available. Number 1 did all the crash testing. Number 2 is known as Nuno. And number 3 is the only privately owned one left. That Zonda is owned by a Swedish woman and has covered over 200,000 kilometers. Pagani wants to buy it back for historical reasons, but the owner doesn't seem interested in selling. So number 3. At the factory, Pagani keeps a file on every single Zonda they've ever made. Every service, every modification, everything that's ever happened to it is kept in a file. So that's pretty impressive. Number 4. During the early design stages, the Zonda was known as the C8 project and then the F1 project, before finally being called the C12. Number 5. Launched in 2005, the Zonda F was the fastest Zonda at that time, with over 600 horsepower. A lot of people think that it's one of the most rare, but in actuality it is the most common Zonda. 25 examples were made and sold, whereas most of the other Zondas had about 15 examples sold. So, number 6. The most Zondas owned by one individual is 6. He owns a Zonda F, an F Roadster, a Zonda R, a Zonda Tricolore, a special one-off Zonda that's on order, and a Zonda Club Sport. So he clearly has a massive love for Zondas and a massive wallet. Alright, so number 7. The price of the 6-liter Zonda C12 was $180,000 back when it was first released, and since then the most expensive model has climbed to over $1.8 million. Number 8. Pagani has built quite a number of bespoke Zondas for special customers like the Zonda GL and most recently the 760 RS. Number 9. The owner of Porsche tuner Gambala, Stefan Korbach, survived a crash in his Zonda at 199 miles an hour on the Italian Autostrada. So definitely the Zonda is one of the safest cars available on the market today. So soccer moms, if you're watching this, get a Zonda. 10. So Pagani Automobili remains family owned. They own 94% of the shares. Horacio Pagani, of course, is the CEO, and his wife heads up accounting as his 2 sons work in the design department. Number 11. The Zonda was launched with a ZFDS 25-speed gearbox because Pagani's own 6-speed box wasn't ready at the time. After it was ready, all owners were allowed to switch to the new gearbox for free. 12. Nonno, as I mentioned earlier, which means grandpa in Italian, is the Zonda test car. It has covered over 1 million kilometers and contains parts from pretty much every single Zonda that has ever been available because, of course, when something new comes along, Zonda puts it on Nonno and tests it for the future cars. 13. One Pagani Zonda owner who owns the Pagani Zonda F uses it as his regular car and has covered over 110,000 kilometers in his 5 years of ownership and probably has amassed quite a large fuel bill. 14. Because Mercedes expected the Zonda's 7.3-liter V12 to be out of production well before now, every new Zonda engine has to be created by AMG from scratch. That's why today they cost Pagani over twice as much as the new twin-turbo V12 AMG engine used in the Huayra does. 15. The carbon fiber structure of the Zonda C12S offers more torsional stiffness than either the McLaren F1 or the Porsche Carrera GT. 16. Pagani itself never entered a Zonda in the Le Mans 24 Hours, but U.S. privateers Car Sport America did in 2003. It had to retire due to gearbox problems. 17. The Zonda has received numerous awards over the years, including Evo Car of the Year 2001 for the C12S, and overall #1 production in Evo's 100 Greatest Drivers Cars in Story 2009 in the Zonda F. 18. Pagani Zonda has made a number of Zonda merchandise that includes Pagani watches and Pagani hi-fi systems using styling cues obviously from the Zonda. 19. Pagani's connection with the Mercedes isn't limited to the engines it uses. The Zonda's bodywork was inspired by the Mercedes Silver Arrows Group C racers of the late 80s and early 90s. And lastly, 20. The original C12 Zonda had 389 horsepower, whereas the new C760 RS has 760 brake horsepower. Alright, well that's all I got time for today, YouTube, so I hope you enjoy this. I'm sorry if things were a little choppy or disjointed. It is, after all, my first video, and I'll be making better ones soon to come. So take care, you guys. See you later.